Hi, friends. I'm Becca Wierwille, author of middle grade contemporary adventure Road Trip Rescue, and today I'm here to talk to you about why I love doing author visits. So, an author visit is when I have the chance to go to a school or a homeschool group or another organization to talk to students about what it's like to be an author. In these visits, I talk about everything from a day in the life of an author to the different steps of my writing process, where I get my ideas, how kids who love to write might get started themselves. Sometimes I read a chapter from my book. So it depends on the presentation. But before we get into all of that, I want to take a big step back to how I got started even enjoying writing in the first place. And the truth is, I have been creating stories as long as I can remember. When I was in elementary school, I rode the late bus, which meant that after school each day I had to wait in the cafeteria for my bus to come. And a lot of the students who were waiting would play games or they'd talk or sometimes probably get a head start on homework. But I would sit with this little purple notebook I had and I'd create these stories about islands made of candy and talking teddy bears. I loved to write, but I hadn't had many chances to actually come across writers in my everyday life. So when someone asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I don't know that I would have known to say author. Then one day we had this author visit from an author named Matt Novak. And the book was called Newt. It's a sweet story about a newt who makes a new friend and he finds a pet. And it's a sweet story. But what stuck out to me most was that he signed my book and he actually even drew a little newt inside of it. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I had a signed copy of a book. The actual author had written inside of it just for me. They had signed my name. And I was thrilled. And I realized that some people actually did this for a job. Someone has to create these books. Creating stories can actually be something that you do to share with the world. And I thought that was the coolest thing. The truth is, a lot of students don't have the chance to talk with an author and to ask questions and to explore, well, what is the story behind the story? How did this book come into existence? Where does an author get their ideas? How do they get started? And so I love doing these author visits now so that students who enjoy creating stories, students who are future storytellers or current storytellers, can ask their questions. They can meet an author. They can have that experience if they want of getting a signed copy of a book and having that to treasure. I meet with students in grades kindergarten through eighth with a variety of different presentation types. So, for the younger groups, the presentations tend to be a little bit shorter, lots of pictures, lots of interaction. As the groups get older, there are more presentation options where students can practice some of their own storytelling or really dive into the details of the story creation process. And my presentations involve other fun things too, like maybe a read aloud from Road Trip Rescue of a chapter. Some of my presentations even involve my prosthetic arms. So I do a little show and tell with the students of my different prosthetic arms and how they changed from the time that I started getting them to the time I stopped when I was in third grade and what led to me stopping wearing the prosthetic arms. So we get to talk about all sorts of fun things during these visits. And then I always like to leave plenty of time for question and answer at the end because I love the questions that students ask. At my last school visit, I got some amazing questions that I'd never been asked before. For example, one of the girls asked how I came up with the name Kimmy in the story. And that was a question in all of my interviews I've never been asked before, at least not that I can remember. So it was fun to be able to think through those answers. Another student asked me if it was hard for me to change my daughter's diaper with one hand. I get a lot of the one hand questions since I wrote Road Trip Rescue with Kimmy with a limb difference, since that's something we share in common. And I thought about it. Is it hard for me to change my daughter's diaper? Yes, it is. She does not like her changing table. It is very difficult. But the reality is that's something that would be hard whether I had one hand or three hands. I think that would be a challenge for anyone with a wiggly 1 year old. So I love answering reader questions. I love having the chance to interact and meet students and meet these storytellers and hear about their own ideas. So, if I had to sum up why I love doing author visits in just a few sentences, I think I'd say it this way. I love doing author visits because I know from experience the impact it can have, and I love inspiring students to create because that's what we've been created to do. We're created with these unique talents and gifts, and we have stories to tell. And so, being encouraged to tell them is a beautiful gift. If you're interested in learning more about my author visits, about the different presentations I offer, my availability, scheduling, all of that, head over to my website, beccawierwille.com/author visits. All that information is there. And I hope to see you soon at your school or homeschool group or whatever organization you're part of. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.